We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're gonna kiss me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, Doctor, help me!
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that's...
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're gonna make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first!
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
This is the American International Podcast. I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And I'm Jeff Markin.
And for this episode, we're still glued to our television sets watching another release from AITV. This one is Monster from a Prehistoric Planet from 1967.
Monster from a Prehistoric Planet, aka Gappa, the Triphibian Monster, was directed by Haruyasu Noguchi from a screenplay by Iwao Yamazaki and Ryuzo Nakanishi, and a story by Akira Watanabe, with English dialogue credited to William Ross, and it was produced by Hideo Koi for Nikatsu Productions.
Monster from a Prehistoric Planet stars Tamio Kawaji as Hiroshi Kurosaki, Yoko Yamamoto as Itoko Koyanagi, Yuji Okada as Daize Tonooka, Kōji Wada as Mashida, Tatsuya Fuji as George Inoue, Keisuke Inoue as Mr. Funazu, the Playmate magazine owner, Zenji Yamada as captain of the Kamome-Maru, Buman Koto as chief of Obelisk Island, Saburo Hiromatsu as Hosoda, Inosuke Nagao as Commander Raiku.
Also appearing are Masaru Kamiyama as Professor, Koken Katsura as Saburo Hayashi, Shiro Oshimi as Oyama, Yoko Oyagi as Aihara, Mike Deneen as Petty Officer, Ruch Fidancer as Captain of the Sea Angels, and Paul Sheeman as Professor McDonald.
Monster from a Prehistoric Planet opens with a map of the Pacific highlighting Obelisk Island, and then a volcano erupts into the title credits.
The title, Monster from a Prehistoric Planet, is presented over the flames. Then we see a ship cruising the ocean waters as the credits continue.
Festive music is playing. Doesn't seem like anything's wrong yet.
On the deck of the ship is a woman, this is Itoko, and she's laying out in the sun, reading a magazine and enjoying the salt air.
Below deck, there are scientists doing science stuff in a laboratory.
They're shaking test tubes and such.
It's convincing to me. And now we're back on deck with Saburo, the film's comic relief. He's trying to fish and gets a fishing hook stuck in his collar somehow. But then he hears a weird beeping noise.
It's a radio signal, and he manages to entangle himself to go and answer it.
During this time, Itoko goes into the wheelhouse to make eyes at one of the scientists. This is Hiroshi Kurosaki. He tells her, Miss Koyanagi, or that is her last name, that they'll be in the Catherine Islands tomorrow, and she's delighted. She says she'll go out of her mind if she has to stay on this boat any longer. Hiroshi says that he likes the publisher of his magazine, but he didn't expect to be exiled for this long.
Just then, Saburo runs in with that radio message that he received. It's from the publisher, who is funding this voyage. Kurosaki reads it, then crumbles it up. It's not a secret anymore, he says. The publisher is going to inform the newspapers of their agenda.
And now we're at Playmate magazine headquarters, in the office of the publisher, Mr. Finazzi. He's standing in front of a model of a park he has planned. He calls it Playmate Land, and we see toy animal figures randomly placed in a rocky/forested landscape, and he's showing this to the press.
Playmate Land is designed to commemorate his magazine's 50th anniversary.
At this point, an aide goes in and starts playing jungle sounds for the benefit of the audience.
The reporters ask how he intends to acquire these animals. He replies that he has sent a crew to the South Seas just for that purpose. Oh, wonderful. Very good. It's terrific, says the fawning press.
Hard-hitting journalism there. And then Mr. Funazu continues. The expedition will also get some rare, strange South Pacific animals, and there'll be an outdoor restaurant, so you can dine in tropical splendor. And on the stage nearby, there'll be primitive island dancers. And, well, that's it. That's the whole park.
Very good, says one of the reporters. Then he continues. The publishing business is now getting into the tourism business. The publisher laughs heartily. You're right, he agrees. And every one of you will be able to enjoy a South Seas vacation without ever leaving the country.
Ah ha 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 ha, he chuckles.
Now we're back on the boat, and Kurosaki accompanies Itoko down below to the scientist's cabin we saw earlier.
It's also a bunk because there's somebody lounging on a bunk, reading while science stuff is happening in front of it. Kurosaki is taking jabs at Professor Tanaka, the head scientist on this mission, saying that all he has to do is chase some birds. Kurosaki and his crew will be doing the real work. Meanwhile, Itoko is chatting with the only other woman on board. Her name's Aihara. This is a very cramped room full of people.
Back up on the deck, Saburo is fishing again. This time he took something that looks like it has glowing headlights. A monster! He cries out. The ship begins to shake. Below deck, everyone is thrown about. An undersea earthquake, declares Tonooka.
After a few seconds, it subsides. Itoko says Saburo is on deck. But then Saburo runs into the cabin to describe the huge monster he caught. No one believes him, but they go out to look anyway. There's no sight of anything, but there's still something on his hook.
Saburo tries to pull it in, but the line snaps, throwing Saburo backwards onto the deck, which causes him to laugh like Popeye. And the others are amused by Saburo's antics.
Then another rumble is felt. One of the crew members gets out his binoculars and sees a rocky formation. That's the volcanic island of Obelisk, he announces. And they determine that the earthquake must have been caused by the volcano's eruption.
So Kurosaki decides that this is where they should start their expedition. The island with the still erupting volcano.
Makes sense to me. As they approach the island, Kurosaki, Saburo, and Itoko are on deck, looking at their destination. They see a giant stone statue. And Kurosaki waxes historical that it's just like the statues on Easter Island, and that all these islands were once connected 1 million years ago, or so goes the theory. So that tracks. It doesn't really look anything like the statues on Easter Island, though. It has visible feet.
Then Professor Tonooka comes over with the ship's captain. 7 of us will be going ashore, says Tonooka. The captain warns them to return to the ship at any sign of trouble. The next day, the team of 7 is on their way to the island. Hiroshi, Itoko, Tonooka, Mashida, George, Saburo, and Aihara. They reach the island and start exploring.
An island boy sees them approaching, and then runs to tell his people. The crew hear drums as they pick their way over a rocky ledge leading around the perimeter of the island. And now we're in a clearing, a space set up for ceremonial activities by the residents of this island. There's no one visible, but we see someone watching from behind the trees surrounding the clearing.
Saburo says he feels like he's been here before. Itoko says it looks just like the publisher's model. Oh, that's right, says Saburo. He's seen it in a picture in the publisher's office.
And then the islanders emerge from the trees.
Cannibals, gulps Saburo. The island boy, Saki, leads the people's chief into the clearing. Are you Japan people? Asks the chief, the obvious elder of the group. That's right, says Kurosaki. We're Japanese. How did you know? Lieutenant, which one? Asks the elder. Tonooka steps forward. I am, he says.
The professor and a lieutenant. Once he identifies himself, suddenly there's a celebration going on. The island people lift Professor Lieutenant Tanaka to their shoulders, and then there's music, punctuated by volcanic blasts, and tribal dancing. The Japan people sit to enjoy it.
The elder says that the Japanese promised long ago to return, and now they have. Gappa no angry now.
Gappa? Asks Itoko. Kurosaki thinks that Gappa is their god.
Tonooka muses that the natives seem to think that they were responsible for stopping the earthquake.
Then Kurosaki tries to describe the giant stone idol to the boy Saki.
The boy doesn't immediately understand what he's asking, so Kurosaki motions with his hands. Big, stone, idol.
Gappa, he yells. Kurosaki wants to go visit Gappa, but the elder says that Gappa sleeps now.
Nearby, Tanaka is still chatting with the chief. Since the lieutenant is here, the chief believes that his people are safe now. We don't have that kind of power, says Tanaka. Saburo suggests they take the natives back with them to Japan. Aihara is into the idea, and she tries to sell the elder on them coming back to be put on display in Playmate Land.
Oh, jeez.
But the elder just can't imagine his people living in Japan.
He says, my people born here, we die here.
Saburo offers that it's dangerous for them to stay here, well, with that active volcano and all, but Tanaka nixes the idea.
Professor Lieutenant Tanaka says that they're here on a scientific expedition, not to violate the Prime Directive. Kurosaki grabs the boy, and he and Itoko follow him away from the festivities. Then we follow them into the forest. Itoko asks why everyone's afraid of Gappa. Kurosaki tells her that to primitive races, the most fearful thing is the god. Gappa no god, says Saki. He fly.
Itoko is confused. Hiroshi asks Saki if he's ever seen Gappa. People tell me, he says.
And they press onward toward that statue.
Meanwhile, Saburo has gone off by himself in search of Kurosaki and Itoko. He complains that they went off treasure hunting without him. He's startled when he hears something moving in the nearby brush, but it turns out to just be a toucan pterodactyl hybrid that flies, or rather launches away.
He says he'll go find his own treasure. And now back with Saki, Itoko, and Kurosaki. They reach a pile of rocks next to a mountain. Saki looks up at the top of the mountain, then back at his followers. And then suddenly we're looking at the statue again. Itoko starts taking pictures.
It's the same, says Kurosaki. Just like the idols on Easter Island, except different. Hiroshi tries to move in for a closer look, but Saki blocks the path, spreading his arms. No go, he says. Don't go there. Why not? asks Kurosaki. The stone statue. My people never go there. Kurosaki protests.
He says it's only a statue.
But Saki says, Kappa angry.
But even though they don't pass, the rumbling starts intensifying, and then rocks start to fall. Back with the tribal people, they feel the earth shake and panic.
They fall to their knees, bowing and chanting.
One of the scientists, Mashida, tells Professor Lieutenant Tanaka that Kurosaki and Itoko went into the jungle, and then we're back with them where the statue starts collapsing. Once it's fallen, it reveals a giant cave with a perfectly square opening.
A conveniently door-shaped rift.
Looks like the entrance to a garage.
Kurosaki suggests they go inside. No go, says Saki. Kappa angry. It's all right, says Kurosaki. Go get the lieutenant. Tell him his friends go in cave. Hiroshi and Itoko head toward the cave entrance, and Saki heads back to the village.
And then Saburo finally appears and sees the cave and correctly concludes that Itoko and Kurosaki went in there.
It's a good thing, too, because he's tired of treasure hunting.
Means he didn't find anything. Inside the cave, Itoko and Kurosaki are exploring. Itoko is scared. She hates places like this. Bitterly, Hiroshi tells her that she's supposed to be a newspaper photographer. If she can't hack it, she should go home, marry an office worker, have babies, and wash diapers. Faced with this horror, Itoko says that she's not quitting. So they press on into the expansive cavern, holding hands.
Shining their flashlights around, they find a lake.
Under the volcano.
I wonder, are we dreaming? Asks Itoko. It's hard to believe that they're the first people to have seen this lake. And suddenly you're a photographer again, announces Kurosaki. She thinks he's teasing her, but he says that he's serious.
And we see a giant rib cage from something that died a long time ago. Kurosaki concludes that the old bones are what the islanders call gappa, and then Saburo catches up with them and complains that they left without him.
But then Saburo notices a very large egg. But before they can examine it, there's another earthquake. The three take cover, and as they do so, the egg rolls down a hill where it starts to crack.
The three of them struggle to find shelter as a tiny rubber creature emerges from the egg. Just then the other four scientists join their missing comrades. Saki leads Professor Lieutenant Tanaka and the rest to them. The professor chides them for going off alone, and the three show him the hatched egg, but there's no sign of what used to be inside. However, whatever was in there left a trail of slime, so they follow it to find where it is laying on the ground.
They follow the egg goo trail until they've come across something.
Egg goo young?
They try to capture it, but Saki tries to stop them. No! Kappa, angry.
No touch, no touch, no touch. All right, yells the professor.
Now we're back at the village, and we see that the scientists have returned with a makeshift cage holding the hatchling they captured.
Meanwhile, the islanders have continued that party on into the night, but one person isn't celebrating. The elder is pissed at the Japan people for angering Gappa. That's why we're asking you to come to Japan with us, says Aihara. She thinks that the people aren't safe here. Professor Tanaka tells her to forget about it. They'll never leave the island.
But Tanaka continues that it'll be okay. This island has been around a long time, and it won't sink.
Everybody might die, but the island will be fine. Kurosaki tells the outraged elder that Gappa that they're afraid of, it's just a big lizard. And we see that they put the baby Gappa in that cage they're standing next to.
You take Gappa kill my people, complains the elder. Gappa more angry. Kurosaki tries to explain that their Gappa is just a pile of old bones, but something seems to be getting lost in the translation.
Especially when he offers to just throw it in the water for them.
Back in the cave, Mother Gappa arises from the lake to find that her egg has hatched, and her hatchling is nowhere to be found. So she immediately goes off in search of her young one. By now, the expedition crew has returned to the ship with the baby Gappa in a new cage down in the hold. Everyone is standing around it. Itoko says she can't figure out what it likes to eat. It hasn't eaten any of the food she's offered it. Pretty soon it'll be tame, says Kurosaki. It only looks like a monster, but it's really cute, decides Itoko. Kurosaki is in awe of the fact that they were witness to something actually hatching from a dinosaur egg.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Professor Tanaka thinks that the cave was at the right temperature to keep that egg in stasis for millions of years. When the cave opened up after the quake, the increased temperature allowed the egg to finally hatch. So they figured the parents died millions of years ago. Itoko is having second thoughts about taking the little guy. Not because of what the islanders said, but because people will be bothering this strange little creature at Playmate Land.
But Tanaka hopes to use it for reptilian research.
He wants to study reptile evolution.
Itoko knows that her publisher, who funded the expedition in the first place, will have no intention of using the creature for research. Just then, Saburo joins the others and announces that he has radioed the publisher about their discovery.
Back at Playmate magazine, Mr. Funazu is trying to read up on Gappa, but he can't find anything about him in the encyclopedia.
He has a small crew pouring through research materials, trying to figure out what a Gappa is.
One of the researchers asked how tall it is. About 5 foot, says Mr. Funazu, but you can't judge a man by his height. But the funky was asking how tall Gappa is.
As this is going on, the publisher's daughter is in the next room finishing up her dance lesson.
We think her name's Oyama.
She reports to her father that she's finished, and he suggests she go out and play. and they can spend some time together later. His daughter asks him if he can buy her a mommy. Don't be silly, he says. Your mommy is in heaven. I mean a new mommy, she clarifies. Then she recommends her dance teacher as a prospective candidate for the job. Mr. Funazu tells her she's being ridiculous and sends her off to play with her dolls, and the embarrassed dance teacher heads out as well, presumably to find a husband elsewhere.
Her dance teacher gives a little weird nod and leads the child away before any arrangements can be finalized. One of Funazu's flunkies says that something is fishy. What if all they're bringing back is a burnt lizard? It wasn't a volcano after all. Mr. Funazu starts to get upset. They're returning awful fast. What if all they're bringing back is a burnt lizard? Those idiots are trying to waste his money and make a fool of him. Stupid burnt lizard, he cries.
On the island Obelisk, the volcano is erupting again, and the natives are rightfully fearful.
Well, their village is being hit by flaming rocks, so I don't blame them.
At the base of the volcano, a Gappa breaks through the wall, followed by another. Once outside, they call out to their baby. The natives scream and run for cover as the two Gappas start stomping through the village.
Further terrifying the people who run for the shore to get into boats. But not Saki. He clings to the side of a cliff, trying to stay out of everyone's way. Meanwhile, an American sub surfaces and sees the erupting volcano. One of the seamen tells the others that they're going to check for survivors.
Now we're with Mr. Funazu on a boat. He's on his way to intercept the returning science expedition. On the ship, the publisher is brought down to the hold, where they're storing the baby Gappa, which is currently covered by a tarp.
Mr. Funazu lectures his crew about trying to fool him with a burnt lizard. He was expecting exotic animals and plants. What is he supposed to tell the people? Tell them we failed, says Kurosaki. You did fail, says the publisher, and you expect me to apologize for you? Kurosaki tells him that he should look at what they brought. This will be the biggest story in the world, and it's all his. Mr. Funazu says that he's seen burnt lizards before. Has he? Where?
Nevertheless, he looks under the tarp and is surprised by what he sees. Now everyone is gathered in the science cabin. Mr. Funazu has asked them not to reveal the existence of this Gappa to the press just yet. He wants to coordinate a big unveiling. Tonooka says they'll still have to clear customs, but Funazu says that they'll avoid customs by bringing the creature to shore by motorboat.
And Professor Tonooka starts arguing with Kurosaki and Mr. Funazu about who has rights to the creature. Mr. Funazu naturally assumes that since he paid for the expedition, it's his. Professor Tonooka is more concerned about experimenting on the poor little guy. Mr. Funazu says that he plans to keep this under wraps for now.
He intends for the next issue of Playmate magazine to be an all-Gappa spectacular, and it'll be the perfect promotion for Playmate Land. Kurosaki thinks he understands Tanaka's motivation here. The discovery of a new creature will certainly bring fame to the scientist who presents it to the world. Tonooka seems to take offense, but Kurosaki continues. If Tonooka won't allow them to keep the Gappa's existence a secret for a while, then he'll just ship it back to the island.
And then we see some headlines that read, Playmate Land opening postponed indefinitely, and Playmate Venture fails.
But this is all part of the publisher's strategy. Funazu is in the backseat of a car with his daughter, while his two assistants sit up front. Funazu says he will catch everyone off guard when the next issue of Playmate magazine comes out, and Playmate Land is on, and that Gappa will be their star attraction. They can tame it themselves and even teach it a few tricks. He'll leave that up to his two aides in the front seat.
They look thrilled. And now we see that we're in a harbor town, and we find ourselves at the Toto University Biology Research Institute. We go inside where baby Gappa is undergoing some tests. Itoko and Professor Tonooka note that the baby is growing very fast, at least 1.5 feet since they brought it here. Soon it will be too big to keep. Itoko wonders if it's time to take it to Playmate Land, but the professor doesn't want Funazu to have Gappa.
Neither do I, confesses Itoko. She wants Tanaka's research to be successful. Kurosaki tells Tonooka not to work Itoko so hard. She protests that she's only helping because she wants to. But Kurosaki says she's only 22 and getting wrinkles.
Ugh.
Who cares, she says. I'm not your wife. Now go away. And he obliges.
Professor Tonooka calls Itoko stubborn, but then he sees something on a printout and runs up to the other scientists and says, hey, look at this. At that moment, Mr. Funazu and his daughter arrive. They go inside the building and find Gappa, seeing how big he is now.
Upstairs in the lab, the latest tests have proven Tanaka's theory. The Gappa have a homing ability, just like birds.
And that means they would have the extraordinary ability to track their offspring down, if they're alive. And then they hear a man scream and run down to the cage holding Gappa.
Gappa is crying out, making all sorts of noise, because Funazu is poking him with a stick. And when he does so, sparks emit from the Gappa's body.
Well, naturally, Gappa is angry. He rushes to the bars of his cage and everyone jumps back. Kurosaki asks what's going on, and Funazu says that it attacked his daughter. But his daughter says that's not true. Mr. Funazu says that Gappa gives off sparks when he touched it. Itoko looks at the creature and moves close to the bars of its cage, and somehow manages to calm it down. They have a connection.
Kurosaki tells Funazu that he really shouldn't be here if he wants to keep the Gappa's existence a secret. It's best that he stay away. Now we're back on that American submarine, and we see that Saki has been taken aboard. He's lying in a bed where a doctor is treating him. Gappa's baby, they take to Japan. Gappa's parents, very angry, spitting fire. The doctor can't make sense of this nonsense, but it's not important right now. Radar is picking up 2 submarines coming toward them. Gappa, Saki cries out.
The captain says that they will investigate when they put down anchor, wherever they're going. The sub is then rocked by something. Gappa, says Saki. And from outside the sub, we see there is something indeed following them with its headlights on. Whatever's following, though, emerges from the water and takes to the air. And now we're at an air control tower in Japan, where 2 unidentified objects have been spotted. The 2 objects almost collide with the passenger jet. The jet has to take evasive maneuvers. Back at the tower, a controller demands that the unidentified pilots identify themselves.
Now at a press conference, the pilots of that jet are explaining their experience. The pilot says he's never seen a plane shaped like that before. The 2 of them were flying almost vertically, which should be impossible, and that they were going towards Sagami Bay.
Watching this press conference are Professor Tanaka and his crew at the university. Kurosaki's there too and asks Professor Tanaka if Gappa's parents can fly. Professor Tanaka doesn't think so. Their wings wouldn't be developed enough for flight. Kurosaki says that even the impossible can happen, and tells Itoko that maybe they did make a mistake at bringing Gappa back here. And now we're at a restaurant where some dancers are entertaining mostly male clientele, but we're only there for a second to see a little bit of the dancing. And now we're outside again.
This restaurant is near Sagami Bay. Outside, people start to panic as the 2 adult Gappa emerge from the sea and head to the shore. Papa Gappa continues towards the town and walks through a building as people scream and run in the streets. Mama Gappa joins in the destruction, and the 2 walk through bigger buildings and stomp on smaller ones.
I love their sound effect. There's like a timpani going boing, boing, boing as they walk around. The people know the drill. Giant monsters emerging from the sea is not good, so they run out of there, as the Gappas head into the building to do some real damage. So the defense forces are called in to deal with this giant menace, and the 2 Gappas face off against an army of toy tanks.
Tanaka, Kurosaki, Itoko, and Saburo are in a car listening to a report on the radio of the creature's destruction. The report says it's impossible to predict where the 2 creatures will strike next.
And unsurprisingly, the combined might of the armed forces is unable to stop the rampaging beasts, who then take off into the air. And then, after that short flight, they land somewhere, as fighter planes zero in on their location, firing missiles at them. This annoys the heck out of the Gappas, but they stay on their feet. And then they start spitting fire, knocking the jets out of the sky. They press on, knocking down structures just for the heck of it seems.
The Gappas swat at the approaching planes, but they eventually change their strategy and breathe fire on them, causing the jets to crash and burn. As the Gappa resume tearing apart buildings, the remaining jets continue their onslaught.
And now they must be near Toto University because Itoko, Kurosaki, Tanaka, etc. can hear them coming from outside.
Eventually, the Gappa take to the air and then retreat back into the lake.
However, nothing's going to stop Playmate magazine for printing the next issue, featuring the cover model Baby Gappa. Hot off the presses, it flies into the hands of people hungry to read about the type of creature currently obliterating their country.
It's a sellout, and Funazu is pleased. One would think that the destruction of the town near Sagami Bay would temper the enthusiasm, but no, everyone is reading this issue.
Meanwhile, other, presumably more legitimate reporters are waiting outside the Department of Defense office, where a meeting of the heads of the various branches of the armed forces are trying to figure out how to get the Gappas out of that lake so they can better kill them.
Tanaka is there, and he recommends that they use sound waves to drive the creatures out of the lake. His research has shown them to be very susceptible to sound.
He scratches a plate and it makes a little squeaking noise, and he's like, humans hate that. Let's put that underwater, but louder.
Now we're back at the university, and Dr. McDonald, that doctor from the submarine, arrives with the boy Saki. Dr. McDonald introduces himself to the crew. They already know Saki, but they are nonetheless surprised to see him here, and fully clothed.
Saki, of course, runs to see the baby Gappa. Funazu's daughter joins him. Saki tells Gappa that he should go home with him. One of the other scientists comments on the mysterious link the baby Gappa has with certain humans, and the 2 children share a smile as Gappa squawks at them.
Now the Japanese military is readying their missiles as their plan to use sound waves to drive out the monsters is enacted. Tanaka is on hand to see how this goes. Kurosaki and Itoko are also there. Itoko says that she believes Tanaka doesn't care what happens to the baby Gappa. He's only interested in what it can do for his career. Kurosaki says that every man has his own ambitions, and he's the same way. He looks at Itoko. You love him, don't you? You think so, she says, looking away.
Then she says, when you and I were in that cave, it felt like we were the only two people in the world. I wanted to be with you for the rest of my life. Now, she says, I hate you and I hate Mr. Tanaka. And then she walks away.
There are small motorboats with sound systems installed that are sent out onto the lake. And we see that Dr. McDonald and Saki have been driven out to the area as well. Saki tells Kurosaki, send baby back now. Then Gappa be no angry. Me go back too, with Gappa. Itoko says that the parents of that baby Gappa have the same feelings as humans would in that situation. So she urges Kurosaki to do the right thing. Kurosaki asks Itoko if she can guarantee that the monsters in the lake will leave if they give them their baby back. She can't, of course, but believes they must do anything they can. But now it's already too late. The motorboats have been sunk and their sound systems have been switched on. The sounds pierce through the waters.
The Gappa cling to the bottom in agony for a while, and then have no choice but to float to the top. The military command gets ready to fire. Gappa, shrieks Saki, running into the water. Kurosaki hauls him back on shore and holds him so he doesn't do it again. As the missiles go off, Saki screams. He needn't have worried, though. Those missiles are as effective as all the other munitions have been, which is to say, not at all. The Gappa take off into the air, but as they do, they splash a huge wave of water all over the town. People start running, sirens wail, and the Gappa fly away.
A photographer is interrupted as the subjects gawk at the two flying Gappa overhead. At another military meeting, the Defense Department declares they have to protect Tokyo. That seems to be where the monsters are headed next.
Yeah, they didn't do so good with the smaller towns, but now they got to put everything together for Tokyo. We see that the Gappa are stomping that way as the radio warns everyone to evacuate. Now we're with Itoko, Kurosaki, and the science crew. She tries to persuade Kurosaki to send the Gappa back. They should listen to Saki. He knows the Gappa better than anyone.
So Kurosaki suggests this option to Mr. Funazu. It's his call, after all. But Funazu is annoyed at the suggestion. He paid good money to have the baby Gappa brought here, and he has big plans for it. Besides, if it turns out that giving the baby back makes the monsters go away, it will be an embarrassment to him, and all of them will be blamed for the damage caused by the monsters. Kurosaki says that since he was the one who brought it back, he will take full responsibility. But Funazu declares he absolutely will not give it back.
Funazu's daughter begs him to let the mommy and daddy have their baby, but he won't budge. She says that she thinks he's mean, and she hates him now. Kurosaki says that he's changed, and he tells the others to get ready to go. Funazu's been outvoted, so everyone leaves him alone. They can't listen to a madman, so they all go to take the baby Gappa back to his parents.
We see that helicopters are brought in to fly the baby Gappa back to the land. It takes 2 helicopters, trailed by 2 blimps, to offset the Gappa's weight to complete this task.
Now we're in a car driven by Kurosaki, along with Itoko, Saki, Dr. McDonald, and Saburo.
The latest news report says that the airport has been closed and the monsters are continuing their rampage in the eastern part of the industrial sector.
Hiroshi wishes that those helicopters could go faster. And now we see that Mama Gappa and Papa Gappa are wreaking havoc in the industrial sector. But for all their searching, they cannot find their baby.
They stroll through the city, knocking down buildings and power lines and starting fires with their breath, and they're causing a lot of damage.
I think they're also starting fires by stomping on the gas silos and stuff.
Kurosaki and company go to the airport to watch the action from the tower. As this is going on, the helicopters reach their destination, and the baby Gappa is deposited clumsily on the runway with a thud.
He frees himself from the netting and starts squawking, but his parents can't hear it amongst all the wreckage. Itoko asks if Saburo has the tape of Gappa's voice, and he does.
So they blast it over the loudspeaker.
The explosions are very loud, but the baby sounds coming from the airport loudspeakers eventually cut through the noise, and Mama Gappa and Papa Gappa turn towards the sound of their baby.
Everyone in the tower runs outside to see if their plan is going to work. Mr. Funazu and his daughter are already there, and we see Papa Gappa and Mama Gappa strolling down the landing strip and are finally reunited with their hatchling. It's an emotional moment, and everyone watches solemnly as the family of Gappa trade embraces.
Aww. Tears are shed. Itoko says it worked. Saki yells that the Gappa have his permission to fly back to the island.
Saki says, Gappa, go back to island. No one will stop you. And that's just what the Gappa do, after a quick flying lesson for baby Gappa. But once all able, they take to the sky as everyone watches.
It's all over, says Kurosaki. Itoko apologizes to Kurosaki and Professor Tonooka for ruining their ambitions. Kurosaki says that they were all being too selfish. You have to think of other people too. And Professor Tonooka agrees.
He'd forgotten there's more to life than ambition. Itoko takes a few steps forward. You know, I've decided to quit my job. I guess I'm just an ordinary woman. I should stay home, marry an office worker, and wash diapers. You see, well, goodbye.
Oh my god. I'll talk about this later. Professor Tanaka says to Kurosaki, "You can't let her go just like that." And so Kurosaki chases after her. And then everyone except Saki and Dr. McDonald leave the airport.
The sun rises over the remains of Tokyo as the three Gappa fly back towards Obelisk.
And that's the end. Welcome back to the American International Podcast, where we're talking about Monster from a Prehistoric Planet from 1967.
According to an article we found online about special effects wizard and filmmaker Eiji Tsuburaya, 1967 was the height of Japan's kaiju boom, when many Japanese film studios were making their own monster films. The Japan Film Export Promotion Association started in May 1966 with the idea that since tokusatsu films are unique to Japanese culture and that other countries cannot easily imitate them, and they contribute to the Japanese economy, it would be useful to establish organizations to promote them and further energize them.
Nakatsu, Japan's oldest major movie studio, jumped on board and decided to do their own film to qualify for these funds. After going through several ideas, they developed the script for Gappa. This would be the studio's only kaiju film, though.
Gen Yamazaki and Ryuzo Nakanishi, screenwriters for Gappa, explained in an interview that the film got government financing of about 500 million yen, or about $1.4 million, which was 10 times the budget of an average Nakatsu film. Hideo Koi, the film's producer, knew some political officials from school and used his connections to get the money. This information was sourced from Wikipedia, so take it as you will.
The same with this next bit. Principal photography on Gappa lasted for about 40 days, which was twice the time that director Haruyasu Noguchi usually took to shoot a film.
According to Stuart Galbraith, in his book Japanese Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, a critical analysis of 103 features released in the United States 1950 to 1992, the monster suits and effects in the film were created by Akira Watanabe, a former employee of Toho.
The main and end title music heard in the overseas releases of the film, i.e. the one that we watched, were from an earlier film also scored by composer Saitaro Omori, the Nakatsu teen drama/comedy film Youth Song, which came out in 1959.
American International did not try to pan and scan the theatrical version of the film for the TV release, but instead just cropped off the edges of the film. The dubbing was done by Salvatore Belloteri, who did Voyage into Space, according to Stuart Galbraith's book, but the on-screen credit for the English production goes to William Ross.
In Japan, the movie was titled Daikyoju Gappa, and it was released theatrically in April of 1967. It never had a major theatrical release in the United States, though Daiju Gappa, like Return of Giant Majin, did play in theaters in Hawaii after its release.
Gappa the Trifibian Monster was also released in the UK beginning in September of 1969.
I guess it had a European release as well, but I couldn't find any evidence of that. AITV released Monster from a Prehistoric Planet as part of its 15 new science fiction television package beginning in 1967, and the film first played on American television in October of that year.
Gappa the Trifibian Monster has been released on DVD by various companies, including Alpha Video, Mill Creek Entertainment, Tokyo Shock, and Image Entertainment, and on Blu-ray in the United States on February 25, 2020, with both Japanese and English language audio, as well as English subtitles.
Taglines for Monster from a Prehistoric Planet include, "It swims, it walks, it flies."
A year in production. Gigantic Gappa is here.
Amazing, fierce, huge.
The best in years, the screen's newest giant thrill.
Vast, hideous, invincible.
Even mightier than King Kong.
Several sources we found said that Monster from a Prehistoric Planet, or Gappa, was essentially a remake of Gorgo. Kind of hard to argue with, too.
Monte Ito, in the Honolulu Star-Advertiser, previewed Gappa before it played in theaters there, and wrote, "Science fiction movies about prehistoric monsters on the loose in a modern city are pretty much alike. Gappa, the Trifibian Monster, is no different. But this one has human interest. It is in color, and the special effects photography is as good as any we've seen. Director Akira Watanabe has made this into a realistic science fiction film that can be enjoyed by the entire family."
Royce Breyer in the San Francisco Chronicle wrote in an article published in April of 1967 that the Japanese have broken away from the simple dinosaur line. They have one now called Gappa the Trifibian Monster. He travels on land like a tank, streaks through the ocean faster than a submarine, and flies at Mach 2. Besides, he belches fire at 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This was part of an article about dinosaur movies, and it was before it was released, so that's why he didn't have all the details correct.
In their review, Variety stated that Gappa makes an auspicious debut and reveals itself as best monster so far, and that these are the only Japanese monsters one might like to see again. Most effects are well done, a few superb, and said the destruction of Atami was one of the highlights.
Footage from Monster from a Prehistoric Planet appeared in an episode of the British sci-fi series Red Dwarf. So we have another kaiju film. This is, the third one we've done in the past few weeks?
Yeah, the majority of the kaiju films that AIP was involved with would have been in the TV packages, but there are still a handful of them that were theatrical, and eventually we'll be covering them all here on the podcast.
Destroy All Monsters is on the way someday.
And the thing about doing the description for these movies is that the most exciting parts of the movie get the least description from us because it's basically monsters just walking around and stomping on things.
And there's not a lot of detail. It's the same thing over and over again, and it actually takes a good chunk of the movie.
Right. I think when the Mama and Papa Gappa show up in Sagami Bay, that sequence is nearly 10 minutes long.
Seems longer. And it's pretty much the same old that we see in every movie of this type. Maybe the location's different. The models are different that are being crushed, and the rubber suit is different. But it's not much to distinguish it from other movies of this genre.
Well, there isn't really much to distinguish any of them. They're all pretty much the same beats. Giant monster stomps through town.
The only question is why. And this one had the twist, I guess if you want to call it that, of the baby being reunited with his parents, but it's not like it's unique to this movie. Everyone clocked it as a remake of Gorgo right away.
What seems to be unique to this movie is the natives and their use of blackface.
Oh, gosh. What do we say? It was a different time back then. This is not white people doing it. It's Japanese people doing it. I don't know. It's not an excuse. That's just what happened. What is also very much of its time is the message that we get from spunky photographer Itoko at the end of the movie, where somehow seeing a baby reunited with its parents, despite the fact that they're different species, has now caused her to abandon her whole career for a life of washing diapers, which, of all the things that these male screenwriters could have come up with, this is the most disgusting task that anyone can do. I mean, raising babies, sure, staying home, if that's your gig, fine. But washing diapers, no one gets jazzed about that. Come on.
Well, her whole storyline ending like this is really kind of funny. When Kurosaki confronts her about her feelings for Tonooka, it seems to come out of the blue because I didn't get that impression at all that she had any feelings for Tonooka. She was more interested in working with the baby Gappa from what I could see.
Yeah, she did seem really, I mean, in the way that their careers are spelled out. I mean, what was Kurosaki's job? Was he a writer? Did you ever see him write anything? So movie careers are usually pretty loosely sketched. And it's the same with her photography, but at least we see her taking pictures. But she does seem intrepid and ready to explore. She goes on this trip and she has that much bravery. But then by the end, she just throws it all away. And yeah, the only guy she ever makes sheep's eyes at is Kurosaki, never Tonooka. But they do play it up like there's this big love triangle happening.
They don't play it up, though. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, sorry. They don't. They say there's a love triangle, but they never show us any evidence of that.
Exactly.
And Tonooka is kind of a jerk by the end of this. I guess the only good thing he does is give Kurosaki permission to pursue Itoko, like it was his to give.
And she wasn't interested in to begin with. Just Kurosaki thought she was for some reason.
Maybe they have a strict don't date your coworkers policy at Playmate magazine, and so she knows she has to quit if she wants to go out with Kurosaki.
Yeah, maybe that's it. And speaking of Playmate magazine, if a publisher of Playmate magazine is going to make a theme park and call it Playmate Land, and I go to Playmate Land and I get what they advertised here, I'm going to be very disappointed because it's not going to be what I expected at all.
Well, hopefully you read the brochure. It's like going to Euro Disney and then finding that it's just a petting zoo. You expect rides and characters, and this is just basically a zoo that you can walk through with a tiny smidge of Jurassic Park added in.
Can you imagine the rides in my version of Playmate Land?
Yes. Well, there's your $1 billion idea, Jeff. Why aren't we making this happen? Just make sure to have something for the ladies as well. I don't really have a lot of opinions on this movie. Parts of it were funny, and parts of it were just, like you said, same old, same old.
I first saw this film around 15 years ago in a theater, actually.
Wow, where was that?
And it was this version. It was Monster from a Prehistoric Planet. It was during a series that a local theater was holding every Wednesday night. They would show a different cheesy movie. And I went to all of them. They'd start out with some trivia, and I'd win that every single week and get my little rubber monsters to take home.
Not to brag. Well, let me ask you, said they showed this version, but did they show it in widescreen?
No.
Oh my God. Really?
No, it was the Monster from a Prehistoric Planet version because that's the one that's in public domain.
Oh. But this is available on Tubi in widescreen in more glorious color than what we get here. So I wish we could have watched that. Well, anyway, what did you think when you saw it 15 years ago?
I enjoyed this one. That's when I tracked down the original VCI DVD of Kappa the Triphibian Monster. So that's been in my collection for a long time.
Did you pick this one? This one you chose that we would watch?
I did.
Yeah, I believe it.
I thought this would be a good one to cover during our television series in the summer.
It's just unfortunate that it's such a bad print because if you watch it on Tubi, it's so much more vibrant. You get it in widescreen. It's a more enjoyable experience. I think the dubbing is the same, though.
Yeah, and on Tubi, I think it was the Japanese version with English subtitles.
Oh, it was?
Or maybe they're both available, but I think that's the one I looked at the other day. And the Japanese version has different music at the beginning and end. It has kind of a rock theme.
Oh,
that
neat.
I guess they didn't want to pull in because they weren't going to translate it. So rather than having people sing Japanese on the soundtrack, they just placed it with different music cues or composed a new theme or whatever they did.
And I do believe, even though we can't prove it, that this was Salvatore Billetteri doing the dubbing because it sounds exactly like Voyage into Space. The male voices are basically the same and kind of hard to distinguish.
And Saki sounds exactly like Johnny Sacco.
Exactly like him. But we don't have a credit for Bobby Byers doing the dubbing, so we can't say for sure. But I wouldn't be surprised.
But if that's the case, it's odd that William Ross is credited with that on the print itself.
You never know why people get credits. Sometimes they're just like a producer credit. They get it for doing some little task, but they didn't do any of the work.
I suppose it's possible maybe he did do a dub, as such wrote the English translation that was then redubbed
By
for whatever
Salvatore.
reason by Salvatore Billetteri and Company.
Yeah, that would make sense too. I think they didn't go out of their way to put every name in credits the way they do now. So we can only guess at some of these.
Well, they definitely didn't. Now there's all kinds of unions involved, so everybody gets a credit. But back in those days, you were lucky if you actually saw your name on screen.
Right. All right. So let's place a grade on Monster from a Prehistoric Planet. As always, using our scale where A is awesome, I is intermediate, and P is pathetic. Jeff, what grade do you give Monster from a Prehistoric Planet?
Monster from a Prehistoric Planet may be my favorite kaiju. Maybe it's because until the recent Godzilla movies, it's the only one that I've seen in a theater. So it has that going for it. It has a lot of humor in it, and I think a lot of it's intentional, which is something I will appreciate. I don't know if any of the humor in it is intentional at all, but there certainly is a lot of humor. I think the effects work is adequate. I've never been really impressed with the look of the kaiju-style special effects. It's obviously people in rubber costumes and stomping on models, and even when they show boats, they look suspiciously like models. And I'm not sure how they managed to do that so consistently in every single film, but you never see a realistic-looking ship in these movies. But taking that as it is, this is one that I absolutely adore, and I'm going to give it an A for adoration and awesome. What do you say, Cheryl?
I think some of the humor is very intentional. I think the character of Mr. Funazu is supposed to be over the top, and we're supposed to laugh at him and his goofy Playmate Land idea. The way the reporters are fawning all over him, I think that was meant to be silly in even the original Japanese version. So I do appreciate those bits of humor. I know that we have Saburo doing a bit of clowning. It's the alleged comic relief character, but there's only maybe 3 incidents of that. And after that, he goes into being either not there at all or helping in the background. And then I do think they're trying to inject a little bit of family drama in here as well. A little bit of love triangle. They just don't do it very well. I mean, we want the baby reunited with his parents, and not just because of what the parents are going to do if they don't get their baby back, because it's not right to take creatures away from their natural habitat. And I think this movie gives a little more respect to the islanders and their beliefs, even though the characters don't respect them. But I think we, the audience, are supposed to sympathize with them and say, these scientists are wrong for what they're doing. So I appreciate that. I don't know if this is an A movie to me, though. I mean, it was fine. I liked it well enough. I didn't hate it. Parts of it were pretty good, but consistently, I don't know. I have to take off points for the weird thing they did to Itoko at the end of the movie. The washing diapers, the blackface. I just don't think any of that was necessary. I mean, these are supposed to be Polynesians. They can look Japanese. They don't need to put fake skin paint on them. So for me, this is just an I movie. It's not terrible. It's watchable. I enjoyed it, but I can't honestly say that I adore it the way you do.
That's fair. For more on Monster from a Prehistoric Planet, as well as other films from American International Television, or for that matter, anything else from the AIP universe, visit AIPpod.com. You'll find trailers, radio spots, posters, lobby cards, press books, stills, streaming links, our list of lost films. There's still a few we're hoping to track down to cover on future episodes, and plenty more drive-in paraphernalia we've managed to dig up for our American International Archive. You can use the contact form to leave us questions, comments, or suggestions. You'll find links to our socials so you can keep up with us anywhere we post, and you can visit the AIP Pod store, where any purchase will help us bring this content to the world each and every week. And that's all at AIPpod.com.
And now it's time for Jeff and I to spread our wings and fly off into the sunset, so to speak. But never fear, we shall return in a week with another example of a film from American International Television. For the American International Podcast, I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And I'm Jeff Markin.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in.
Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.